You'll never find a more wretched show of fun and villainy. We should be cautious. Hello and welcome to Chatter Squadron Fun and Villainy. I am Mike Calhoun. Laughing across from me is my friend Johnny Trowbridge, and reading silently to himself like a good boy is Tyler Bucks. Hello, friends.
Shh.
Oh.
I'm reading silently to myself like a good boy. I'm reading Do It by Sheev Palpatine. It's a story that he wrote when he moved up to Canada.
Yeah.
It's how I went from a lowly rich royal on Naboo to the most powerful being in the galaxy. Have you guys ever heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah? You guys
I've heard of this book, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Ghost wrote it.
It's a good... Wow, really?
What?
Yeah,
You-
I was
you
hired.
died?
You were hired by
You
Sheev?
died and then you wrote it from the grave.
I wrote it as a ghost,
Wow, that's incredible.
which is much harder than you'd think.
Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see everyone again. We are bringing you that fun and villainy every week, and we're on episode 6 of Fun and Villainy.
Yes.
And this week we're focusing on the grossest Star Wars creatures and characters.
Blech.
Yeah, I don't know how we settled on this, but I'm
I was walking down the street.
okay.
And I had my coffee in my hand, and when somebody spits out gum and it lands on...
Oh, I hate that.
Right. Well, somebody did that, but they did that with an entire sewage plant. It looked like somebody just spit an entirety, everything onto a sewage plant in the size of a piece of gum on the sidewalk, and I stepped in it.
That is pretty gross.
Yeah, and it's still on my shoe right now.
You have a sewage.
You
plant
brought
on
it
your
into
suit?
the oh, he's holding it up.
Yeah.
That's what that smell is.
Yeah,
That's
that's just an entire sewage plant I stepped on. I apologize. A lot of people are out of work.
If you shrink a sewage plant, does it smell worse or better?
It smells the same. It's just the atoms are compressed.
Okay.
Hey, compress your atoms and get on social media and follow us on Twitter, Instagram. It's Chatter Squadron. We're on YouTube now, but I bet you're watching us on that good old Facebook Live right
Yes.
now.
I would say that's a hashtag we're trying to push is compress your atoms.
Yeah.
Hashtag compress your atoms.
Hashtag compress your atoms.
Stop taking up so much space.
Fuel your force. Compress your atoms. That's a reference to our weekly news roundup.
But you can watch right now.
You can watch it right now, but don't, because watch us this episode.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be fun.
What are some
And
and
villainy.
villainy?
So let me just get started here. He wants to get that handshake, and he's going to be. What? What are you guys doing?
That was gross.
That was gross. You probably have real clammy hands. I get clammy hands.
Wow.
Those are
What
gross.
Thanks
if
for
I-
assuming we have clammy
What if
hands.
I turned it over and just had a clam? I was like, you're right.
Oh, that would have been a visual joke.
Threw it at you.
That would have been some David Copperfield stuff. That's for our 100-year-old listeners.
You spoke a lot about our social medias. You can also listen to this show right now. Anywhere you listen to great podcasts, in an audio sense, if you don't have the time to watch us turn clams over in our hands on Facebook right now. And if you're listening to this, there's a visual thing. Follow us on Facebook.
There's
you can
a
see us.
visual thing.
If you're,
there's a visual thing.
We actually have some visuals to show you in this episode, so it might be beneficial.
right, like this.
You did that last time too. You were like,
He's
"Hey,
like, what if I do
everyone
the
tune
same
into the
thing
video so
every
you can
time?"
see me do this weird dance move." Oh, I gave it away.
Dang
Yeah,
it,
you
Calhoun. That's the biggest reason people went through.
Calhoun, you
I hope
ruined his
people
hook.
tune in for this clove of garlic I'm holding up.
Oh yeah. What about this?
Small pen.
Yeah, it's like small.
How about you guys? Look at
That
this
was great.
photograph.
Look at this graph.
Okay, well, we like to look at some photographs of gross creatures.
Yes, starting with number 5.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Thanks for joining in, Tyler.
Number 5.
Number 5 on our grossest creatures / characters.
Most likely right here.
Well, let's give some caveats first. I know I teased number 5, but this isn't necessarily like something we voted on or asked hundreds of people to consider which one is the grossest. This is just our personal list. And they're not ranked in like number 1 is the grossest, But these are some of the most disgusting things you'll find in the galaxy.
Right. Well, our goal today is to make you do this at least once. Ugh.
I'm already doing it.
Mostly at what Tyler just did.
I was going to say mostly at both of their clammy hands. Number 5 for us is
Number 5.
the boar gullet.
Boar gullet.
Now, outside of the truth that the boar gullet will inevitably find out being really gross,
Well, know the truth.
the boar gullet itself is pretty gross.
Boar gullet.
And they successfully portrayed that in the movie, I would say.
Yeah, the
I
boar.
mean, what's got tentacles? It's going to touch you without asking.
Oh my god. The boar
It's
gullet.
probably got clammy hands too.
The boar gullet is like
whole
the
thing is
epitome of
clammy.
a clammy hand. He's like a clammy lump of flesh.
In this picture, let me show you guys. He's actually contained in some sort of
Pod.
like pod. Yeah. Well, his main body. But in the movie, we saw him just being out in the open.
Him
air.
all loosey goosey.
Real kind of gross. I was actually worried that he was going to fall through the cracks of the floor in that prison they had. He's so
You were worried
slimy.
about him.
Yeah.
You were concerned about his safety.
You know, I don't know him. He might be. Everyone deserves to be treated well, right?
They're pretty nice.
Even the boar gullet.
Isn't it just like a giant octo man?
It's a non-sentient, tentacled species found in the galaxy, and they had the unique ability to read minds. And as a result, they were often used as a form of torture. Notably, Saw Gerrera's partisans owned a boar gullet.
Yeah.
And then Hara the Hutt actually had a boar gullet that she kept on her planet, her home on planet Vodrin. But they were used mainly by people that had organizations as like a truth detector.
Isn't it great? Like something
Or
is
lie detector.
amazing in the galaxy that can read minds, and everybody just uses it as torture immediately. Like the Sarlacc is used as torture when once again, like sewage waste that's on my shoe that could have all just went into the Sarlacc. Just get rid of it for thousands
That's a
of
fair
years.
point. Like Sarlacc pits are a godsend for nuclear waste.
Right.
That's a good point.
What
Although
are
then
we
you'd
thinking?
you'd have one of those nuclear sarlaccs.
Nuclear.
But then it's just bigger.
Yeah, nuclear.
a
nuclear.
nuclear Sarlacc.
Yeah, a nuclear.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of like a nuclear sub then because it'd be submerged.
You know, something that we didn't.
It's the
wow.
only similarity they have.
You know, something that we didn't mention is we're going to be playing a game towards the end of this.
Oh, we didn't mention that, and I'm sorry. But the game is actually going to be the best part.
You're not forgiven.
Oh, I am the unforgiven. Number 4. What encounter could be worse than a giant black snake? What if the snake was made up of hundreds of smaller black snakes? I'm talking about that moribund serpent.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what this moribund serpent is.
Well, congratulations. I'm about to tell you all about this gross thing that Yoda had to encounter on the planet Moribund.
Let me sit under your gross tree.
Let me show you this gross picture, and the viewer
oh my
is now.
gosh.
Oh,
Yeah,
gross.
it is enormous. It's
making my
especially
nose
when you
itch.
compare it to, if you see the chart down there compared to Yoda,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a bunch of serpents that were conjured by the Force priestesses by the power of the dark side of the Force in order to determine whether Yoda wanted to preserve his identity after death.
Was this in
Clone
Wars?
Season
Okay.
6?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched that. I'm starting to remember that now.
Same. I felt the same. When it mentioned that specifically, I was like, oh, that is vaguely familiar because when Yoda goes to Moribund for multiple reasons, he encounters the ghost, one of the first Sith that successfully preserve themselves
Darth
as a
Bane.
ghost. That's who it is, Darth Bane. He sees Darth Bane, and that's a pretty significant moment.
A little keynote, Darth Bane is voiced by Mark Hamill.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
How did I not know that? That's really cool.
Because I know more than you.
Oh, damn.
Oh.
Tell me about this snake that I don't know about, though.
I mean, outside of it being summoned by Sith and it being a disgusting basilisk, because it's an enormous serpent and its only purpose was to scare people. Really,
How do you guys feel about real snakes?
I actually have no problem with snakes. I just don't want them to sneak up on me.
Yeah, like a sneaky little snake.
I'm sneaky little sneaky
It's
snake.
a sneaky little snake. What about you, Johnny?
Snakes are okay as long as they don't have legs and are, have like a smoother skin. That and opposable thumbs and like hair and eyes and
Okay.
and like a tongue.
Yeah.
and,
I
and
can see that.
teeth and thumbs and
Two-
said
so
more thumbs.
So more thumbs.
and fingers and like and they walk around and they call themselves Jim. Those are the kind of snakes I don't like.
That's
Number
very-
three.
He's the original worm-ridden filth we all know and love.
Oh, no.
He's slimy, he's gross, and Diego Luna wants to touch every inch of his body. It's Jabba Desilligich Tiur, as his full name is. But it's Jabba the Hutt.
I want to touch him, Yabba. I want to touch Yabba.
I want to touch the texture.
I want to feel his texture.
He's probably gross. He probably feels like a leather bag with slime on it.
Oh, yeah? How do you think the snakes felt?
I want to know how solid he feels.
Jim?
Yeah, Jim. How do you think Jim felt?
Probably gross.
Gross.
Jim probably feels gross.
How does the boar gullet feel?
Nice.
You
Nice.
think the boar gullet would feel nice?
I bet you it feels like a bunch of pillows with arms.
You look pretty slimy to me.
Well, looks good to see.
Okay, tell me about Jabba the Hutt, or probably Hutts in general.
Well, Jabba was a Hutt gangster and crime lord, as well as a member of the Grand Hutt Council, who operated and led the crime empire from his palace on the outer rim world of Tatooine. What an interesting place to set your palace, because sure, you're out of the jurisdiction of the Republic, but I mean, he is kind of disgusting, so maybe his palace would be disgusting.
It was.
Here's another thing about he was a major figure on Tatooine, obviously, where he controlled the bulk of the trafficking in illegal goods, piracy, and slavery that generated most of the planet's wealth. He also,
Gross.
yeah, it's pretty gross. He was also highly influential in the entire Outer Rim as one of the most powerful crime lords. I mean, crime lords in general are gross.
Yeah.
How
More
power-
When you make them an enormous slimy worm that eats like living worms.
Now,
Pretty
how
gross.
how powerful are we talking? Like influence wise, or can he lift?
Oh, well, I mean, he's got arms,
Yeah.
so he can only really do arm day. He doesn't really have.
What
a
does he
leg
do?
day.
Does he do tail day?
Yes.
He doesn't look like a guy that spends a lot of time in the gym, but
What does a buff hut look like?
oh
Buff Hutt.
boy,
No.
Buff the Hut.
No, that's where you go and you get like a bunch of different foods and you like load up your plate.
Oh, the Buff Hut.
You go to a buffet,
The buffet.
like a Chinese buffet.
Oh, those are my favorite.
Do you guys think
The Buff Hut.
Do you guys think Jabba the Hutt in the iteration we know him as is grosser, or is the original one, which was just a guy in a fur vest in A New Hope, was he grosser than the actual character?
I'm gonna go with the original.
the original.
The guy.
Just didn't
I'll
like
tell
I
you-
just didn't like him.
The scene he was used in was pretty gross. I'm glad they removed that scene.
And then they put it back in.
Uh,
That's probably the grossest thing about
That's the-
Jabba to
yeah,
me
you're right.
is his re-inclusion into A New Hope.
yeah, I
So
would agree.
gross.
That's the grossest thing he's ever done was
You.
impose himself on a great scene.
Move him away from me. Let's move on to number 2.
Number 2 is actually a really gross one that I almost forgot about when making this list.
I try
It's
and forget
the-
about these gross things.
Oh, all of them?
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not just your imagination. Something did move past your leg. And now you're submerged in dumpster water,
Yes.
yelling at your friends to shoot whatever the thing is wrapped around your chest and neck. It's the Dianoga.
Oh, my good old
Yeah.
friend Diane Noga.
Diane Noga. Hi, I'm Diane Noga. I've only got one eye and 7 arms.
I live in the sewer, and
And would you like to buy my boondoggle keychains?
oh,
Must
also-
have for this season's fashion.
I also like to paint little rocks and leave them places. With special honors of being the first ever Star Wars monster seen in the movies, the Dianoga were sentient, 7-tentacled, hermaphroditic slime creatures that would mate by changing sex if needed and exchanging eggs.
probably because there wasn't that many of them.
They were pretty prolific. They had a quote unquote society, but they since they operated and communicated kind of like whales do with reverberations in the water.
Would they also paint their eggs, almost like Easter?
Those, yeah, they would paint the eggs and offer them to each other as a ceremony.
I love having Diane Noga over my for
for Tupperware parties, and
for
jewelry
Easter.
parties. Oh, for Easter specifically.
Yeah, great. She makes her own Cadbury eggs. Johnny, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, in Dark Forces, you kill a bunch of those and go around the sewer.
You're totally right. You do.
There's a bunch
How
of
big
those.
are they in that game?
Well, they're all pixelated. So
Well, do they look in kind? I was gonna say compared to your characters.
Tell me
about
when.
the same height
Oh, okay.
Whoa,
as you.
Yeah.
that big?
Wait, just tell me to stop.
It's this
Okay,
big,
stop.
Johnny. Oh, wow, that's pretty big.
Yeah, it's like 2 feet.
The actual dimensions are 7 to 10 meters, and I
Wow.
presume that's in length. So it's like if you were to here, take a look at what they look like. If you were to spread out their legs, they're pretty gross, and they resemble squid because they've got a central mouth with teeth like razor sharp teeth.
Yeah, if you're a listener, they basically look like a squid, but they have an eyeball that's protruding from their head.
And they use it to look around.
What's really interesting is, here's how they survive. They could survive short periods of time in the open air, but they needed to be submerged in water the majority of the time, or they would completely dry out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Same.
as disgusting and scary as they are, which is why I included them, really, they're omnivores. They'll eat primarily like small sea creatures, like on the bottom of sea level, and plants. And then in desperate times, they'll eat bones.
What about garbage? Like metal scraps.
Clearly, one of them has developed into being able to eat garbage.
And will try to get a human if they can.
I was going to say, if you're primarily eating scrap metal garbage and you're supposed to be eating, plants and small animals, if a human comes around, you'll probably eat it.
Like, finally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I kind of feel sympathy for that Diane Naga.
Yeah, poor Diane. My thought on that too is they're right next to the prison bay. Were Empire people throwing people into that trash compactor to get eaten by the Diane Noga?
That's a good question. I mean, that one specifically was near the prison bay.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's messed up. And also,
Interesting theory.
before we move on to the last one, for the visual people watching, I have like a hair or something on my nose. So the entire time I'm trying to get this hair off my nose. So I'm just going to do it right now.
Well, I'm glad that you described it for the audio only listener as well.
Yes.
There you go. You got that hair taken care of.
I think I got it.
Now
because
that was pretty gross. That's
did-
very appropriate.
I didn't want to mess it up for when we're about to say number one.
Now this one I don't think you guys are familiar with, which makes it extra special. Its name is Kudar Mubat. Now, that is the name of a large creature that I will now describe, but their species name is the Assemblers. So, the biggest phobia on Earth is arachnophobia. Now, what if the size of spiders directly reflected that fear? We'd probably see a spider the size of a tractor, which is exactly what Assemblers are. They're enormous legends species. Unfortunately, they're not in the canon. They're in a single book called Bounty Hunter Wars. They are called the Assemblers, and they look like enormous bulbous spiders. Here's a picture
Bounty
of
Hunter
one
Wars
standing next to Boba Fett. And this little environment, the visual listener and viewer will also see this image, but what you're seeing is that's inside of its space web. There's just an enormous web that it floats around in an open space. Now, let me read some more about it. This thing would grow smaller versions of itself called nodes, and then consume them if it felt the need or desire. Usually, it would consume them out of spite or jealousy or self-preservation. Assemblers lived quite literally in a web that floated through space, and they survived inside their vacuum-resistant exoskeleton. They had 12 appendages total, 4 legs, 2 claws or hands, and then 6 furry limbs sticking out of their back, presumably for catching floating particles in its environment. And I think that's how it would eat if it wasn't eating its own little nodes.
Ugh.
First of all, calling them nodes makes me disgusted.
Yes.
I nodes.
Oh, you've been waiting the whole time for that.
Wapa!
You see that punch? Almost hit the camera.
Yeah.
It's a
Be careful.
1-2.
Be careful.
I have some reach on me, just like these weird creatures. I don't like the idea of arms or appendages coming out of backs. Something
No.
about back arms is weird to me.
I completely
Yeah, it's almost
agree.
like it's not something that humans have, so it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We're
But
specious.
we're not uncomfortable with tails.
Oh, I am.
I
Oh,
am.
okay, you guys
Speak
are.
for yourself, sir.
If we had tails, they'd be like weird human skin tails. So I
I've
would
seen
not
those
be.
before. They're pretty gross. Like
I'm,
like
okay.
some people have like growths.
Careful, we don't want to alienate our tail market out
you're
there.
Right, I'm sorry.
Careful, Calhoun's watched too much of Splice, the movie.
Oh, I have seen that movie.
I
Other than
knew it.
Splice the show.
Yeah, the
Oh
movie.
man.
I love the name of Splice the movie. Splice
Splice
the movie.
yeah.
I
As
didn't wanna-
opposed to splice, the other media forms
Yeah.
of media, the table top game.
Yeah, Splice the tabletop game.
Splice the comic. But no, so this thing's weird. I have arachnophobia.
Do you?
People make fun of me for it, which
Ha. Sorry.
let me say when
What a loser. This guy and his arachnophobia.
as you can
Most
see.
common phobia by eye.
Ah, loser.
Hey, thank you guys for showing people what it looks like and sounds like.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. You can stop now. But no, don't. If somebody has arachnophobia, don't be like, "Hey, it's just a spider." It's not like I decided when I see a spider, I
Yeah.
get freaked out.
Right.
I would love to not be freaked out by anything, but that's not the world I live in.
So snakes
So-
don't do it for you. So the huge snake monster wouldn't necessarily frighten you as much as this enormous spider. They're about the same size.
Something about spiders, for me, the smallness of them is something I don't like.
Oh,
Is
okay.
them getting up in my
Places.
business and
Up in
all
your
that.
business in your bed.
It's if it was bigger, I don't know. I mean, luckily we don't have to have that
we don't
reality,
live in Australia.
right?
Oof.
Well, apparently, spiders just their makeup, their genetics, they can't grow larger than the largest spider. Just their bodies can't handle being any larger than, I think one's like the size of a rabbit or something like that. Like that's the biggest size,
Yeah.
and that's as big as they can get. So at least these ones are from space or whatever. But we in this world we couldn't have a giant spider just because
Yes.
it's not their makeup. So I don't have to face that in real life. But it is something about the smallness of it that
I
I
see.
really don't like. But
I
at
can
least none
see
of
that.
them have appendages coming out of their back.
It's true.
Yeah, that is. And when they were describing these appendages being like furry or hairy, I immediately thought of just a hairy leg of a tarantula kind of
Yeah.
thing. And those are especially. I don't have a problem with spiders and tarantulas especially. I kind of like them. I wouldn't have one as a pet because it's just weird. Why would-
It is. It's like a guy who has a snake as a pet. You're
Yeah.
like, that's weird.
Any pet that it needs to be kept in a tank or else, like what?
Or else.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that's really what it is.
I mean-
Why is your pet in this tank? Like, well, it could. Well, stop there.
yeah.
No worries.
Right. Well, I will say for people who do have those who might be watching, it is a cool thing to have
It's
like an
cool- it's a
animal.
cool
you know what I mean?
creature.
It's a cool thing. Like
Sure.
you-
It's like fish.
if
it's
you
cool
had
to
like a
have fish.
small, dangerous fish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it got out, it wouldn't do anything to you because it's a fish. But it's
Right.
sort of the same thing if it's like a lizard or whatever it is. I just if you,
You
don't
might have
if
a
you have a
fascination,
if you have a
sure.
tarantula, I will not come to your house.
Really?
No.
Okay. Well,
No, thank
blanket
you.
statement. No. So all of the listeners that have been inviting Tyler to their homes.
Yeah, stop it.
Stop it if you have spiders.
Except for you, Jim. I still like Jim.
Jim is a snake.
I still like Jim.
Why would he have a spider? That's his natural enemy.
We've got a game, and the game will involve me taking on the persona of one of these gross creatures,
Yeah.
and Tyler and Johnny will be trying to guess which one of them I am. We haven't gotten there yet because I want to go through these honorable mentions.
And
but
also-
that's the game we're going to be playing, and the questions they have are loaded questions, obviously, but they're meant in a 20 questions kind of way to figure out which one of these characters I am.
And also, we're going to go to questions at the end of this of what other people think is the grossest character or thing in Star Wars. So that I'm excited. I'm excited about that. Hey, guys, I'm excited about
You
that.
might want to be less excited.
Yeah, you
because
need to
you're-
calm
you're-
down. You need to calm down, sir.
All right, first honorable mention in the grossest creatures / characters.
Number first.
Bib Fortuna.
Oh, God.
This guy is supposed. I didn't know this until way later. This guy's supposed to be a Twi'lek.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
a male
A,
Twi'lek.
s-
What
a-
happened to you, Bib?
a normal human-colored Twi'lek, which is just gross. Once again, human tail type thing.
Yeah, because Twi'leks can come in green, blue, purple, and pink, or like weird human skin pigment. And he's disgusting. He also works for Jabba, so he knows all about being disgusting.
Mhm.
Johnny has a good Bib Fortuna.
I do.
Yeah.
See?
Oh, I bid for tuna.
Yeah, I will bid for tuna.
My other honorable mention, which it is an honorable mention because we've mentioned them before, but the Enzati.
Yes.
Oh, no, thank you.
They have tentacles, or they call them proboscises.
Proboscises?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say proboscises.
Proboscises.
That go out of their little sides of their mouths and go up your nose, and then they eat your brain.
That's it.
Well, they're humanoid, so they kind of look like
Yeah.
anyone, but the difference is like out of the sides of their nostrils, they'll have these tentacles that go into your face, usually up your nostrils,
Yeah.
and they'll suck your brain out.
And then they go back in, and they look like a normal person.
Well, they don't look completely normal because they kind of have a bulbous nose,
Right,
but
but-
they're humanoid. They have human,
Do they
kind of
talk?
pigmented skin.
Yeah,
They-
they're just
they
pe- they're
speak
people.
common. They have teeth, eyes, hair. But what's kind of annoying too
They're
is
like, may I suck your brains out?
let me read this
yes.
for you. We mentioned these guys not too long ago in our top 10 most frightening beings back in Halloween, guys. Great episode. So once a victim was within their power, the Anzati would uncoil their thin proboscises from their cheek pouches located on either side of their nose, and they usually inserted them into their nostrils, into the cranium where the brain was sucked out of the organism. Though the Anzati fed by drawing soup, oh, they called it soup.
Oh yeah,
by the way,
that's what it was.
because it was something special to them. Like if they fed on, they also called it luck or sea of memory because they were also telepathic creatures and they were gaining information from doing that. And if they did it to a force sensitive creature, they would become more force sensitive. They're just kind of disgusting. I'm actually glad they're not in canon. Because anytime you introduce something that's telepathic, you're killing it. You're destroying continuity. You're destroying abilities to move forward with things.
Yeah, in a way, but I
can
would
see-
say they're not. They shouldn't be in the canon right now because they don't really have a place. That's more of a dark, evil thing.
Yeah.
And also, it's
Yeah.
just being a vampire.
Yeah,
You're just a
that's
vampire.
true.
You're a vampire for the reason of making yourself more powerful. I guess that's what a vampire is.
Yeah,
All right.
but
cool.
instead of teeth, they have proboscises. Right.
I'm grossed out by anything that has to do with sucking out brains. Are you guys familiar with the movie Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
I
No.
love the movie Starship Troopers, and I watched it when I was 9 years old because me and my family went to a bed and breakfast, and they had cable, and I had never experienced cable before, and I had my own room.
Oh wow.
So it had a TV and it had cable, and we came home from something. It was maybe 9 o'clock, and I was going through
Sounds
the channels.
fun. You should have invited me.
I would have if I had known you. And I was watching SpongeBob, but when SpongeBob would go to commercial, I would go to other channels.
Of course.
And I ended up on Starship Troopers. And I happened to go back and forth. It's a pretty gross movie, but I happened to switch back to Starship Troopers right at a moment where this enormous blob creature is rolled out, and they've taken these human prisoners, and they're interrogating the prisoners, and they're not giving them the information that they need. So this thing unfolds this thin arm, and on the end of it is just a little, it's not really sharp, but it's just a tip, And I was like, what is this? Is it going to be like an eyeball? And it shoots into the skull of one of the actors, and his eyes roll back, and it sucks his brain out, and it made me terrified.
Yeah.
Scars me to this day. So anything that involves like, oh, it goes into your nose and it sucks out your brain, or another honorable mention I have is the brain worm from the Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
It's so simple. It's like the worm goes into your brain and it affects your behavior.
Yeah.
The fact that it's touching my brain, I don't even want to watch it. I don't want to watch this episode. I'm grossed out by it. So that
people walking
really,
around with worms coming out of their nose.
I hated it. Oh my gosh. So I had to include the Anzati because they gross me out. But let me get to the honorable mention that I am so excited to tell you guys about.
Oh.
It goes back to Kubar Mubat, the assembler, the giant spider. I want to tell you guys about one of his special nodes. A node named Balance Sheet. You heard that right. His name.
I use that when I.
So did he.
When I do laundry.
A balance sheet?
Yeah. It like makes my sheets and stuff smell nice.
Balance sheet.
Yeah.
Was a member of the assembler species. Large arachnids that grew semi-autonomous nodes. Yep. And Balance Sheet was originally a node of the infamous information broker Kudar Mubat, a much smaller version of his creator. He had been given the specific task of maintaining and organizing Mubat's financial records. Hence his name. Over time, it developed an advanced sense of independence for a node, and Mubat feared such an occurrence and re-ingested other such nodes that it had discovered to be a little bit more independent. However, due to Balance Sheet's important role, Mubat was reluctant to absorb this node. During the Bounty Hunter Wars, Balance Sheet, unknown to its creator, revealed that it too possessed the ability to create its own nodes. Balance Sheet made a node which was used to trick its master into thinking that it was still attached to the neural cord, allowing Balance Sheet to detach itself from the web, escaping his possession to go into business for himself as an information broker, having a conversation with Prince Sizor, we've mentioned before. So I think his species has been brought into canon, which resulted in his master's downfall and death. So Balance Sheet then also obtained and used a freighter from the Black Suns, which we know about as well, after convincing Caesar that Boba Fett should not be killed, blah, blah, blah. And with the with the reward from his bounty completed, Balance Sheet was able to fund his newly independent lifestyle. And if you look up pictures of Balance Sheet, he's wearing a bowler cap and a monocle.
Listen here, Disney. And you destroyed Legends? Come on.
You cowards.
You cowards. You took this away from us? Come on.
We could have had Balance Sheet, calculator, what other
stapler?
Stapler. The most feared.
And you could have made merch out of all of them. We could have a balance sheet. But no.
You're right.
But no.
What a missed opportunity for Disney's own brand of Microsoft Office programs, Balance Sheet.
Wow.
And calculator. How insane is that?
That's not really gross. That's just a rags to riches story.
It wasn't gross. That's why. But I wanted to mention it because it was compared to Kudar Mubat.
It's gross that they left that out of canon.
Yeah, it's gross that they left it out of the movies.
How dare you?
All right, let's get into this game. Ready?
Well, did we do number one?
We did do number one. It was Kudar Mubat.
Oh, yeah.
That was a long time ago, Tyler. Let's get into this game.
The galaxy far, far away.
All right, I'm going to randomly assign myself a number with a number generator.
So he's given himself a number of one of these 5 that we just went over. He's going to then assume that role. Johnny and I are going to ask him questions, and then at the end of the questions, him and I both have to, probably at the count of 3, say which one we think he is.
Agreed. All right, let me refresh your guys' memory real quick. We have Kudar Mubat, the giant spider. We have the Dianogo, the septipod gross thing that pulled Luke under the water in the thing, in the trash compactor.
Yep.
Jabba the Hutt, Moraband serpent, and the Bull Gullet.
Bull Gullet. Okay.
What about Bib Fortuna, or was he an honorable?
He was an honorable mention.
I just want to make it easier on you guys so you don't have to remember them all.
Right. Okay, Johnny, to see who goes first, let's do rock, paper, scissors. Ready?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
What was that? You just did a number one.
Okay, ready to go again. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
What was that? That's
paper, scissors.
okay. I win. I'm gonna ask my first question to this supposed gross thing, and hopefully, if he is one of the characters, he doesn't give it away by answering like, "Yes,
Yeah.
let me answer this question for you." All right. Here's the first question. Are you more or less gross than sitting in a swamp-filled X-Wing fighter for hours while hurrying to Cloud City to save your friends?
Ooh, I would say that I am. I'm less gross than that. I'm less gross than sitting in an X-Wing that's filled with disgusting swamp water for hours.
Okay, Johnny.
Are you more or less gross than drinking from the same watering hole as an enormous slobbering monster in the middle of nowhere?
That's pretty gross.
That's really gross.
Pretty gross. But I'd have to say that would make me more disgusted than what I am.
All right. Are you more or less gross than electrocuting yourself to the point of melting your skin so badly that you feel the need to cover it up with black robes and let no one see you?
I am.
Tell
more-
me.
I am
Do
more,
it.
I am more gross than that.
You're more gross than
I
that?
am more gross.
I think I know which one it is.
You think you already know?
You got to keep going.
Yeah,
though.
keep going.
Are you more or less gross than being dumped into a landfill planet and forced to live off gray water, slugs, and revenge?
I'm definitely more gross than that. I mean, that's
More
pretty
gross.
gross, but I am more gross.
Are you more or less gross than having a 4-foot bat with a sucker mouse get stuck in your hair?
Well, that's pretty gross. I'd say I'm less gross than that, actually.
I think I know what it is.
Okay. I want to ask a couple more questions.
Okay.
Are you more or less gross than having to clean up a severed arm and a dead rodent at the bar that you work at?
I'm a little bit more gross than that. That's really gross, and I'm sure whoever had to do that was really annoyed.
Yes. They
But
probably had to use some type of blood mop.
I bet. I
Ugh,
mean, that's the
blood
only kind of mop you can get to get blood.
Let's
Pick up blood.
So weird.
see. Are you more or less gross than having to submerge your friend in a tauntaun's carcass?
Ooh, that's really gross.
I'm less gross than that. That's really gross.
That is really
What
gross.
about more or less than your best friend having a worm slither into your brain and turning into a zombie-like drone?
Oh, that's the gross as it comes.
That's really gross, and like I said, that's probably the grossest thing that I could imagine. So I have to say I'm less gross than that.
Are you more or less gross than being cut in half and left to roast next to a river of lava?
I'm a little bit more gross than that. I mean, that sounds a little bit more crispy.
How do you know this so
Yeah,
easily, Johnny?
That's pretty crispy, not gross. I think I know which one it is.
Okay, do we have any more prompts? Are you guys ready to guess?
Are you more or less gross than booting up a Star Wars game and being asked to purchase $50 of additional content before the game is
Oh,
installed?
that
Oh,
is-
there's nothing more gross than
That
that.
is nothing more gross than that.
I am less gross.
More or less gross than wearing a breathing mask with dripping with snot after being expelled from the front of it.
Well, I'm going to try and interpret what sentence you just said, and I'm going to say that I am dripping gross snot from the front of my helmet. I think I'm more gross than that.
Okay.
And then finally, are you more or less gross than drinking green milk directly from the teat of an ocean creature?
Now, that's just charming, so
Yeah,
I'll have
yeah.
to say that I am more gross than that.
All
Are
right.
you guys ready to guess?
Yes.
Do you need to be? Do you need a refresher?
Just go ahead and refresh me.
We've
one.
got Boar Gullet.
Bull gullet.
We've got Moraban Serpent.
Warband.
We've got Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba.
We've got the Dianaga.
Dianaga.
And then last we've got Kudar Mubat.
Okay.
Which one am I?
Give us a 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Morbid
Dianaga.
serpent.
You both were incorrect. I was the Boar
gullet.
The boar gullets.
The slimy, gross monster. At least he doesn't go inside your body.
Yes, he doesn't.
But he is slimy, and he's gonna torture you with his tentacles.
Yes, he doesn't. I like how
I was agreeing to a negative.
Would you like to bring up Instagram to see what some of these people
Consider the
said?
grossest thing.
Yeah, I just somehow pulled up a picture of Neil Armstrong instead of our
he's not
social
gross.
medias.
Did you know that Neil backwards is alien? Oh, actually, Neil Armstrong.
Yeah.
Neil A is alien.
Hey, did you guys know that Obama spelled backwards is debt?
I like that.
I don't know.
That's so stupid.
So a good friend of mine and the show, he's a friend of us too. Another Connor from the Alliance of the Star Wars Fanatics on the Facebook group. I posted this question, which is, who is the grossest character in all of Star Wars? And I was going to see what some of the people there said. Benjamin Saxon says probably Jabba, if not his little pet thing.
Salacious B. Crumb.
Salacious
He
Crumb.
almost got an honorable mention. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He is gross.
Oh, James Scott. Bib Fortuna. Those teeth.
I like this one from Jonas Heimbecker. It's gotta be C-3PO.
Yeah. Gross.
What's so gross about C-3PO?
Gross.
Christina Helms says Salacious B. Crumb. Every time someone says that, just so you know, I'm going to have to do
Yeah,
that
he
laugh.
has to do it.
I've got
I
one
have
for
It's
you.
a contract thing.
Riley McCubbins. This is one that I also didn't mention, but should have gotten honorable mention. Cy Snootles, to be honest. Cy Snootles is the long-mouthed dancer and singer that performs at Jabba's
yeah.
palace.
Yeah, that's
Gross.
weird. Mark Boisverk on the Alliance of Star Wars Fanatics says the Sarlacc and the Boar Gullet from Rogue One. He agrees. I don't know. See, the Sarlacc for me is more scary, if you ask me.
It's super gross, though, because
It is gross.
you don't even know what's in there.
Well, if you listen to our episode,
Yeah, you're right. You can tell you.
where there's a Starbucks in there where we found the lost tapes of Boba Fett while he's in the Sarlacc pit. You can hear what is inside of him, and that's a prior episode of ours.
Speaking of Sarlacc pit, this person, Finished Steven, says, I'd say the Sarlacc pit is pretty gross, but Darth Vader with his helmet off is too.
Yeah, he looks like a weird ice cream cone.
He does. Oh, no, that's gross.
He looks like strawberry ice cream. And then here, let's go to our Facebook. Let's see. Blake Johnson, the Geonosian Zombies.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. Oh, Caleb Johnson said this. Zero the Hutt's mother.
Oh, yeah.
That's another good one. Isn't Zero the Hutt's mom also Jabba's mom? I believe.
I don't know, actually. But I remember seeing her, and she was enormous.
This is her right
She's
here.
like the size of her house.
Let me see.
Mama the Hutt.
Thank
Oh,
you.
boy.
We'll end on this. Jonathan Campbell said, Mama the Hutt.
Mama
There it
the
is, yeah.
All those black things are Remora-like creatures. So she has like hair on top of her head, but apparently they're just stacks of gross creatures on top of her.
Ew.
She is more of a blob than any Hutt you'll see, and not a fan of her. But thank you, Jonathan, for putting that on the
On our
comments
thread
so that
there.
we knew what we were talking about. So that was some fun and villainy.
And if you weren't grossed out at the beginning of the show, you are now.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's what we're going for.
Well, yeah. It's just 40 minutes of.
Yeah. What about a little bit of this? Ooh.
You know what? I hope there's a little bit of that.
There's a little bit of that. So come back next week. We're going to do this on Facebook as well, right? Right?
On Facebook,
Right.
it's on YouTube.
Oh my
You
gosh.
can talk to us on Twitter.
Yeah.
You can tell us all your gross opinions there.
And if you come back, especially for our weekly news roundup and for Fun and Villainy, when it's released as a live stream, you can comment on it and we can see that. And that'll be cool, right? Will
That's
that be cool?
always cool.
I guess so.
Will that be cool? And then to end off this episode, I just wanted to give an update. The hair that I thought was on my nose was actually just kind of in this microphone protector thing. So there was just
It
a
was-
little hair
it
just
was
happened
coming
to
out.
to keep grazing my nose every time I would look at Calhoun. So
Maybe it was
I
a
did
proboscis and it was trying to get your brain soup.
Follow us. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow us into the depths of hell.
We're doomed.